Wonderful couch. Oh, hello. I agree with that wonderful couch. I think Dick Cosmic just did an amazing job with Devil May Cry 5. Hello, everyone. I am Kung Fu Fruit Cup, and this afternoon I am here to talk a little bit with one of our wonderful MSF partners working on the field. This is a pediatrician, Jean Jr. Hi, Jean. How's it going?
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited to speak with you and hear about your journey and all of your things. So tell me an overview of being a pediatrician with MSF specifically.
Yes. So being a pediatrician with MSF is always an adventure. In any given day, I was thinking about today, and in some ways, there's this zen to it where you're so on just thinking, who is the most sick child, and how can I make sure that that most sick child doesn't die today? And it just takes your whole mind and body and soul with that pursuit. And in some ways, it's like the gaming where you're just zoned into it. And so the days, I could work from 7 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. and it flies.
Wow.
Yeah, running around like, who does not have a pulse? Okay, we need to address that right now. Who's not breathing? who is about to have a seizure? And you're just,
Yeah, so you're working in high urgency, like basically all the time.
Yeah, you gotta be prepared. The first thing that I always think when a child comes through the door is, do they have a pulse?
Oh my goodness, I didn't realize things were like that constantly. Because I know, of course, there's gonna be issues. I know that there's like diseases that you have to deal with, especially in the countries that you're working in. And I know we wanted to touch upon that a little bit more, but this severity of it, I think, is so important. And again, one of the many reasons why we're so excited to always be supporting MSF during SGDQ and getting our donations in at gdq.gg/donate. So I wanna know what inspired you to be working with MSF to assist countries, needing this kind of aid all around the world.
Yeah, so I got interested in doing work for the most disadvantaged children around the world when I was in college, and I had an experience where I worked abroad in South Africa, and it was one of those experiences that you have when you're a young person and you realize, this is it. This is that thing that I'm meant for, that's meant for me. And then it was a matter of trying to narrow down which organization do I work with.
Okay.
And my training was long, so I had to do college and medical school and pediatrics residency and pediatric emergency medicine fellowship, all this stuff. And I kept on hearing along the way that MSF, Doctors Without Borders, was the best, the most professional for many people, tens of people. And these were not people who were even necessarily with MSF. It was just that solid reputation. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with the best. And so I decided to work with MSF.
How long did your experience in education, how long did you have to go through before joining?
Yeah, so
because you're like all these different steps, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the medical industry, it's a lot of learning.
It's a lot of learning. So I graduated from high school and started college in 2005. And I started learning French with the idea that maybe, I might want to work with Doctors Without Borders. I went to an info session on them, or work in French-speaking countries in 2010, 2011. And then I did not finish all of the training, all of the stuff, all of that until 2023. And I did my first assignment with Doctors Without Borders in 2024. So it was very premeditated, did a lot of research on the decision, and really tried to find the best organization possible.
Over that time, are you fluent? What's your fluency level now for French? Because
so actually, funny enough, my first assignment was in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So it was all French all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, so it would be like practicing medicine in the US and not speaking English if you didn't know the language.
Wow, yeah. Okay, so that's like a forced immersive experience.
It was immersive, yeah.
Wow, and then working with children as well. So then when it comes to your educational experience, what would you say is one of the things that you are maybe most grateful that you have learned or that you take with you when you're working with children?
I would say the number one, to be honest, for Doctors Without Borders is how to deal with chaos.
That's a great point.
And it's so funny, but yeah, you have to really be able to deal with chaos. And you gotta figure out really fast who's the sickest kid, who has something that we can help with, and narrow that down.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm just wondering what, and you've already kind of given us a taste of what that day-to-day is like, but I just want to know do you have a strategy in place? Aside from just, okay, who is in the worst state? How do you implement the things that you need to do to provide care?
So you work as part of a team. So there's a huge team at all of these hospitals. So it's not just me. There are locally hired doctors or medical officers. There are nurses. There are nutrition assistants. And so we all sort of get together in the morning. We do what they're called rounds, where we visit every patient. And then the day just kind of evolves and devolves from there as really sick patients come in, and we start just triaging. Okay, you finish up rounding on this patient so we can make the plan for the day for this patient. You know, you're gonna go to this patient who's really sick who just came in. You know, I'll run to the blood bank to get blood to transfuse to this kid. You're gonna put on oxygen to this kid who's having a low oxygen. Yeah, and that's like the day-to-day, and you just keep on churning through and making plans for everyone, and then also doing a lot of talking with patients and families so that they understand what's going on and what we're doing and what our progress is, and yeah.
Yeah, I know that's a very big part of it, and I've heard people who are on both sides of it, like those who are have to receive a lot of news like this, or those who have to give it out. I've even spoken with somebody who's like helps train doctors to speak with families, like they're hired to come and show every side of the scenario.
Yes.
And so I'm sure you had a lot of experiences around all kinds of deliver information, deliver news.
Right, good news and also bad news.
Yes.
And how can you be compassionate with that? And people are just so thankful. And they can see, you know, I've had families say like, wow, we can really see you guys are hustling. Yeah. You guys are really working
I can
hard.
feel from your energy that you are like, I am always ready to go. Yeah. And I feel like that is the lifestyle that you just live in. That is your constant state. I hope you get rest.
Yeah. No, it's so funny because it kind of is when you're an MSF doctor. I give out my phone number to the other staff and I say, call me 24/7, 365. If something comes up, I'm here to help.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit more about like when you've been traveling and doing all these things, kind of how your views have been impacted by, you know, with world events happening as you've been working all around.
Yeah, it makes the world events so much more real.
Yeah.
It really does, because, you know, when we hear, for instance, about cuts to USAID, major funding sources for global health abroad, you can actually see the patients who ran out of their HIV medicines or ran out of their tuberculosis medicines. And those are medicines that if you don't take them on a daily basis, your condition can get so much worse.
Yeah.
And so you truly feel this urgency because you have that patient and family right there in front of you, and you want to try to make something work for them. But you see it. Wars, you see people who have walked, like literally walked with a sick child on their back, sometimes for days, because they want to seek care, and they're just in a care desert where there's just nothing. Like imagine entire regions of the US with nothing.
Wow. Yeah, and this is one of the reasons, again, why it's so important to get donations and to support this kind of cause, because we don't always see things happening right here. Mm-hmm. But like, this is a great point. Like, just imagine just empty, like deserts of care. That's a really good way to phrase it, I would say.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've said this once or twice or thought about it like this. I think it's amazing. I think the work you have to do, because there's so much energy that you have to put in, both physically and emotionally, especially as a pediatrician working with children and the impact that it has. And it's like, it is always such a loss of when anybody is struggling or passes or anything like that.
Yes.
But I feel like it just is amplified when it comes to a life that seems like it has gone much too soon.
Yes.
So if you don't mind, like, how has that experience been, like, caring for that or caring for yourself and dealing with those kinds of situations?
Yeah, so it is, and it happens. And I this is something that I'm very transparent about when I am mentoring younger physicians in training. I always tell them, you know, doing global health, quote unquote, is one thing, or that idea in one's head, but you have to actually live what it feels like in your bones to have a child die. Die literally in your hands. You are touching this child, trying to ventilate them with a bag or trying to do chest compressions or whatever. And often from causes that are really preventable if they, just had access to great primary care and, the basic healthcare that we sort of take for granted in settings with a lot of resources. And you have to feel how that feels in your bones, and if you can live with it. And just, it's not for everyone. It's just not. It's very heavy.
I was about to say, talking about this subject is actually going to make me emotional, just because it's like, this feels so hard, and so I have so much respect for what you do. I think it's amazing. And the fact that you persevere and you're like, I'm going to help as much as possible. And I like can see your systems in place and can see everything that you're doing, even just talking to you right now for like 10 minutes, which is incredible. So in terms of those strategies then, especially with world diseases that are plaguing certain countries, like what are your strategies that you're using right now? You know, there's measles, malaria, things like that, tuberculosis you were talking about.
Yeah. So, and this is one thing I love about MSF. In the face of death and dying, it's a constant growth mindset, and that's how I get through. I'm going to honor this child who died in front of me by doing the best I can, the darndest best that I can for every other child, and growing and learning. And MSF is very much a learning organization, so it's always innovating. So for instance, for years, so tuberculosis, for instance, it's the illness that we kind of think about with like the chronic cough and coughing up blood and things like that. But in children, it's very sneaky because they're little like dainty petunias and they don't necessarily cough up all of the sputum. And it's hard to diagnose, and they can just kind of be, you know, slowly but surely like losing weight over time.
Interesting. So what are the biggest signs that you have to catch that?
So a lot of times it's epidemiological, we realize. So for instance, just any kid who's young and malnourished, you have to have at least some suspicion, could this be tuberculosis? And so so Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, basically took these guidelines that the World Health Organization and other groups recently put together to more proactively identify these kids. And they said, we want to get better at this. We want to stop losing as many kids to tuberculosis and help governments and countries around the world do the same. And so they invented this program, for instance, called TACTIC, which is this program where they basically use algorithms and they say, look, if you meet these criteria, which are easily identifiable, even to people who don't necessarily have a super, super high level of training, test them and start them on treatment. And so, for instance, with that initiative, now we see kids who, instead of languishing in the malnutrition unit for weeks on end, we start them on TB treatment, they turn the corner, they start gaining weight, they start eating their solid food, you know, like that money that you're donating, it goes to concrete things like the food that we're giving these kids, and they go home.
Yeah.
The parents are happy.
That's amazing. I mean, this is going to be one of my questions as well, is like asking about how, if somebody were to donate right now, where these donations would go to, especially related to what you do.
Yeah, it's actually very, very concrete. So I've, worked with many organizations and heard about organizations where I or other staff are literally having to go out to the marketplace and like hustle and bustle and try to like track down and like buy even basic medicines because they just don't have it. Or in many, many government hospitals, they might say like, okay, this is your diagnosis, this is the treatment. Now you go buy that. With a family who has no money and just walked for 3 days barefoot to get there.
Wow.
And so what your donations do is make it so that I don't have to have that conversation. And I can just say, okay, this is your diagnosis, here's the treatment, and we got it right here. Here are your antibiotics, this is your oxygen, this is your blood transfusion, here are your fluids, here's the IV that's the right size to fit in your little tiny child's little tiny veins. Like all this stuff very concretely. And then here's your nutritious milk and the food that you're gonna get at the end, like basically the little like packets of like peanut buttery type paste, and you just have the stuff. And that's one of the reasons why people come, is that they know MSF delivers. They actually have the stuff, and they're not going to go to a shell of a hospital that, hey, A, might not have any staff, and B, if they have staff, they don't have stuff.
Right. Staff, but no stuff. Or sometimes no staff and no stuff.
Sometimes no staff, no stuff. You gotta need both, and that's why I work with them.
Sometimes you have to break it down to the absolute basics. Yeah. We have staff and stuff.
Stuff, come.
Perfect catchphrase.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, well, to add maybe a bit more of a positive note, I mean, in addition to knowing that, like, again, how much of an impact these donations have and all the things you're able to provide, do you have any, like, a quick story that you'd like to tell that was like very positive impact on you, like something that happened around you that you want to share?
So there are so many. many, but one example that I think really illustrates a lot of what MSF is about is a child who I saw when I was in West Darfur with the team of doctors and nurses and nutrition assistants. And they were admitted to our malnutrition unit, which is the unit often with our sickest kids. This child had had measles as part of a huge measles outbreak that then Doctors Without Borders came in and did a huge vaccination campaign for. But they got measles before this campaign could happen. And what people don't realize about measles is that it is not just fever and rash. It is a whole complex of complications, including being functionally immunosuppressed for like weeks and higher risk of malnutrition, et cetera. So they came in with malnutrition, we treated for that, and then one of the very astute clinicians there noted on the day that we were thinking of possibly discharging that their oxygen is a little low. And we were like, oh, what's going on? And we had to use our clinical skills and know-how, and we took a listen with our stethoscopes, and finally said, let's just take a look with the ultrasound, and we saw that their lung was basically drowning in pus. So like inside of your chest, there's your lung, but there's this space in between that's usually supposed to be not have a lot of stuff in it. It had a ton of pus. And so we had to find some way to give the antibiotics, continued antibiotics, oxygen, and then drain this. And so we worked together as staff. There was one of our doctors who was interested in going into surgery who had really great hand skills. And so we drained this, and we had to drain it a couple of times. And this is like taking this kid and trying to position them and reposition them so you get as much out as possible. And so it's like all this problem solving and innovation so that we could optimize this child long enough so that they could then make the transport to our nearest other MSF site that actually had like surgical treatment and all of this stuff available.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of like, on the day that we sent them, I was like, you can't keep them forever because then they'll never get better, but it's always, you gotta try to get them over the oxygen that they need. They ended up going, and they actually ended up surviving and thriving, and the mom brought the kid back to say thank you.
Oh,
really
that's
cute.
So nice. I love that.
Yeah, and she was like all plumped up and like...
Oh, that's so good. Again, those stories it's like, that is what makes it worth it, right? Because of the things that you can do to help children all around the world. So I just want to say so profoundly, thank you for what you do. It is incredible work that you are doing. And I know we're basically out of time here. Is there any last things that you want to say real quick for those watching at home?
I would say, just thank you so much. When I first found out about this event, so I am lame and I know nothing about gaming, and I heard about this event and it was like, oh yeah, this is this gaming convention. And then the development team with Doctors Without Borders was like, oh, and this is how much money they tend to donate. And I was like, what? Like that's amazing. These people know how to fundraise. And so it truly goes to saving lives. I can vouch for that, and I greatly appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I appreciate all of your perspective, all of your work, and everything that you do. Please go to gdq.gg/donate. Support Doctors Without Borders. Let's get up to $100,000 today. Do you all want to see that? Let's see that come up. I would love to see that. I'm so hyped, especially to support incredible work like this. Thank you so much for talking with me, Jean. This was amazing. Excited for more runs coming up today, and make sure you donate. You all are great.